Stay disciplined. Stay on top of things. Know when to buckle down and... Thanks, Peppy. That's a pretty big PSA. Nothing to joke about for sure, especially with all these weather warnings and like heat advisories. Please make sure you're drinking enough water each day. That's not even a joke. I think I always, because I drank water by habit, like it was always on the desk, I was fine. But when I learned more about the dangers of like, dehydration and heat stroke, it's definitely not something to brush off, especially right now where, the whole United States has been getting pretty hot lately. Please make sure you hydrate, stay cool out there, and keep at it each day. There have been so many times. You want to talk about a positive motivator? There have been so many times where I think one of my worst habits is I make these foolish contracts with myself. So I'll come home from school, I'll come home from work, and this has been going on for years. I think it's gotten a lot better for sure, but it's happened recently too. When I end live streams, it's happened a few times where it's like, I'll lay down for 5 minutes and then I'll get up and then I'll brush my teeth and do skincare routines and all that. No, it is definitely being able to fight off gradually damaging habits is so important. The slow, gradual damaging habits, they're a lot harder to pick up on because it's slow. We're talking opposite of going to the gym, getting the gains, bro. This is, I'm slowly, my teeth are slowly decaying if I don't take care of them each night. My skin's drying up because I'm not taking care of it each night. That's another PSA is, take care of your hygiene. That's so important. And that's my huge personal example and huge motivator. I hardly got cavities growing up, but the first time I did many years ago, I was like, I need to dial it up. And just kind of looking at the root problem, it really does come down to those nights it's not that I forget to brush my teeth. That's the funny part. I don't forget. I just be like, I'm so tired. You know what? I'll lay down for 5 minutes and then I'll be okay. I'll get up and brush my teeth. I'll get up and I'll just make sure I'm okay, and then I'll get back into bed. Yeah. So what I do now is I kind of just set a bed boundary where I'm like, no, no bed whatsoever until my teeth are brushed, until everything is done for the night. And it's helped a lot. It's probably saved me a lot of money too, because if I kept falling asleep on accident, I definitely would have a cavity by now. In the past few years, I think the worst it's ever gotten was when I was going to UCM one night. I had some of that like ice sparkling water in my hand, which is colored, and so I had this colored sparkling water, and I thought to lay in bed at night. And what happens? I wake up with my hand. That's actually my left hand. I remember I was slowly pouring it on the bed sheets. And I think that was the crucial wake-up call. But what's interesting is, being able to pick up on that. These are subtle. These are kind of the subtle, slowly gaining bad habits. These are the ones that they do damage once enough is piled up. It's not just a huge drastic thing. It's not a bad habit of texting and driving, and you can suddenly get a wake-up call there by just, crossing a stop sign too early or getting hit or hitting someone. And I hope you don't. I mentioned it last week, but please don't text and drive. And if you're talking on the phone, do not look at your phone while you're talking. Phone calls, I understand if it's important, of like you have like the GPS where you can press a button and you don't have to look. That's fine. Like if you have like a computer system in your car and you can just press instant speaker, that's fine. But yeah, do not hold your phone up while talking and driving. That's definitely a pretty drastic bad habit. And so being able to combat bad habits, the slow and subtle ones, it's like a poison. I mentioned recently how effective Toxic is as a move in Pokemon. And I think one of the reasons it's really big is because it starts off slow. It only does a certain small percent of a Pokemon's HP. The damage is pretty low in comparison to how much HP a Pokemon will have, but it doubles each turn. And that adds up. You know, it reminds me of, there's all these advertisements right now that they make money off of people not knowing that they have all these subscription fees. That is another slow, bad habit you don't want to get into, the snowballing. As I say that, I caught up on some Star Wars stuff recently. I've been watching the Skeleton Crew lately, really good show. I finished Andor, really good show, and it's true what they say, Andor is one of the best. It's some of the best TV ever made. And I hope Star Wars and Lucasfilm continues to rehire those writers overall, like that kind of direction that they took from future Star Wars stuff. At least get inspired by that. Not that past Star Wars stuff was bad, not at all. Like in general, obviously there's some flukes, but it's really good. And so I need to go cancel my Disney Plus membership. I'm mostly good on the stuff I've caught up on. But it's crazy that there are companies now. There are like small businesses to even bigger businesses that they profit off of people's complacency. They off of incompetency to cancel subscriptions. And at first it's not much, but then they look at their bank account over time, and yeah, it really makes a dent there. So what do you do to stop that, right? For me, the sleeping thing was, you know, that awful feeling where you wake up in the morning and your teeth feel like they're like almost frozen. You know, it's like a new state for your teeth saying, "Whoa, I am used to being polished." You know, I'm being polished and brushed at night, and you can just kind of feel the bacteria, kind of like looming on your teeth. Hey, how's it going, friends? You know, and that night you better get ready to get out the machine gun and go crazy right there. And so, to me, that was a big motivator, getting, you know, like I said, accidentally pouring the sparkling water. And, you know, trips to the dentist. I think those are all important motivators. This is the reason that good dentists will remind you to keep brushing, keep flossing. And I'm a big advocate of mouthwash, too. I think mouthwash can play a big factor in helping you out. So, you know, these subtle things, we're in a great time where we can go on the internet and learn from other people's mistakes pretty fast. I mean, we're talking like there are crucial mistakes of people having to get braces again because they are complacent about putting on their retainer each night. And I've talked in the past about how it's in our instincts to not notice drastic things until it's drastic. Not all the time, but sometimes it really does take a red light to green light type change for us to make a change. So it's a skill to start developing. Oh, that red light is slowly getting brighter in tint. Maybe I should adjust accordingly. You know, I love that experiment with the monkeys and the blueberries, and how one monkey didn't get the same amount of like food as the other monkey, the same type of food. So he threw a fit when he was given something that wasn't what the other monkey was given. That is at first it was subtle, but then the monkey noticed the drastic change. And I think with the internet, thankfully, we can learn information saying, wow, that person sure has amazing teeth. What do they do? Oh, they brush, which you would think would be a very common thing to keep with you, keep at it. It's a very fundamental thing in life. But yeah, I think some people can get so busy, they forget to do stuff like that. And then slowly it adds up and, the cavities start piling up. And that's the same with healthcare. We noticed when our bones are aching. We notice when our joints are aching. We notice when, our eyes might be hurting. But we don't really notice that the subtle changes of helping ourselves when we take a vitamin each day. We take fish oil each day. Another PSA, watch the mercury count, but fish oil is relatively good for you. These kind of like daily vitamins we take, it's not going to be like, in some of the video games we play where it's like gulp, 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 superpowers, right? But it's so important to make a good, positive daily routine. Another factor is just walking, getting some exercise in. You're not going to see the gradual change instantly. But being able to redefine these new discipline skills for yourself is important. And I've talked about the power of discipline because, you know, there are a lot of corrupt kind of pharmaceutical, big pharma things that they want you to keep taking weight loss pills. They want you to keep getting on these different diet plans. And they're not actually trying to advocate for strong discipline skills because discipline's free. So when you get discipline down, you don't have to take as many of those weight loss pills over and over if you're maintaining good discipline. And that can just be walking a bit each day. And, you know, like in my case, I do intermittent fasting, and I just do that as a discipline thing. But a bonus of that is I've noticed other people have told me that they see it as that I've been very healthy. And it's cool to hear that because it adds to, you know, my observation about there are things that it sometimes might take other people to make a comment about. Because my goal isn't about like, oh yeah, stay fit, stay in shape. Obviously I want to stay healthy. But I just kind of understood like, okay, intermittent fasting sounds like a good discipline to have. It saves you money, and you again redefine a discipline skill, which then can like circle into other things. And so I do think sometimes it takes other people to make a comment for others saying, hey, it could really just be as close as your parents saying, did you brush your teeth? And that's more of when you're a little kid. But isn't that funny that when your parents aren't being as vocal as, you know, you become an adult about brushing your teeth and flossing, you might lose track of that. So, you know, it's important to be your own parent. It's important to, as I've mentioned in the past, tame that child ego state. And I think my child ego state was more of the tired Pete ego state of like, oh, just 5 minutes on the bed, I'll be fine. Yeah, and then you wake up and yeah, you start worrying about having to pay hundreds of dollars for a cavity, you know, surgery. And so it's important to do that. And I've, you know, like I said, with Pokemon and competitive fighting games, it's easy for players to, again, this kind of goes back to the monkeys throwing temper tantrums. It's easy for us to fall into a pitfall of we lose to something and we blame it on them. We blame it on all these other things, right? I'm playing competitive Pokemon. I clicked Shell Smash on Blastoise, but my opponent used Raging Bolt Thunderclap, which gives it priority, and it knocks out my Blastoise. No, rather than me being prepared for that, I'm going to say, no, gimmicks, overpowered, broken, should be banned. I'm writing to Smogon right now. 5 paragraphs why Raging Bolt should be banned. How about I should just go, oh, yeah, Raging Bolt's pretty popular. I should probably prepare for this. Why don't I put Substitute and Earthquake on my Blastoise, maybe make it a more physical set with Liquidation, and still keep Shell Smash. You know, those kind of adjustments you make. These are things you can do each day. That's why every day is a gift, and that's why it's important to keep moving forward. There's so many things that you can do each day, even if you feel like you are stuck in the same spot, in the same city. Every day, there's so much to do. There's so many people to interact with. There's so many positive changes you can make for yourself. I don't feel that's being stuck. I feel that there are so many ambitions that you can hold on to yourself while developing new fundamentals to take care of your health each day. And that's going to add up. This is more than seeing gains at the gym, bro. You know, this is being able to look back and be like, wow, I'm happy that I took care of my teeth, my hygiene, my health. Because as time goes on, I'm able to carry myself and keep trying out new things to make the world a better and safer place, and to take care of myself, find new wonders in this awesome thing we call life. And if we can inspire others to keep doing that, taking care of themselves, adding new habits of discipline, I think that's great. And, you know, I just want to say real quick, you know, Mark Cuban was doing a great thing in pushing some of the corrupt big pharma companies to lower their prices in medicine. And I think he's got the right idea. And that being said, medicine is important. It's just that you have to understand that, unfortunately, there are companies out there that are kind of preying off of you to not have refined discipline skills. And then you pay more money for someone to try to, quote, discipline for you, but not actually teaching the man to fish. They'll keep handing you fish for often overpriced wages. The last thing I want to mention is, happy birthday to T.Hawk and Ryu. I mentioned fighting games, I mentioned Pokemon, and I got into competitive Street Fighter in high school. I got into Street Fighter in middle school, but, you know, These characters are awesome, and there's a reason they stand the test of time. There's a reason I talk about fighting games so much. Fighting games is an exchange between players. You know, you would think it's like some generic thing to take lightly when these Street Fighter characters and other fighting game characters, or Goku and Dragon Ball, are saying, we'll talk with our fists. But it's true. Fighting games is a way for people to bring who they are to the buttons, to the boards, to the arcade sticks. And you learn more about how someone is and their personality and ambitions by exchanging in competitive sport. It's fun to watch, it's fun to see, it's fun to play. And just like playing Street Fighter 6 every Friday, today is something that I look forward to, and I hope everyone else is having a great one. It's been a fun one so far, reaching 1 year of this, and I love talking about things that I love to talk about. And man, I do love Mondays.